Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. I feel like I stuttered there. The Legend of Zelda. Of Zelda. Anyway, the last time I played was 420, and we're right back in it. It's been like 10 days. That's how it goes. I've been taking a break in between a lot of these sessions, and I thought I'd be recording more of these videos. And yet, here we are. Do we get the Ballad of Gales yet? Song of Passing, Ballad of Gales. Yeah. So wait, no. Oh, what we do last time? We went to the Forsaken Fortress, did the second visit. Now we're doing the Sage Temples, but there's still a whole map left to explore. Oh, what am I gonna do next? Yippee! The world is perhaps my oyster. I mean, I could just go through the main quest some more, but I have a lot of islands to visit. How about this? Let's do the Sage Temples. There's so much exploring I'm excited to do, but I think it makes sense to do that once I have all the items. So let's just keep moving with the story, do these Sage Temples, and then we'll fill out the map. And that's how we're playing. That's how we're going to play this game. Y'all cool with that? Everyone's with me? All right. Without further ado, let's learn the songs. I think we can learn both of them. The Winds aria and the Earth. Do I know the names of the different Sage songs? But the Sage songs, the Winds God aria and the Earth God's lyric, I think is what it is. Which I like that. I like the difference, and I don't know. I would like to look into that and kind of make inferences about the cultural differences, maybe even about like what does it mean that maybe the Zoras have an aria, right? Does that imply something? Because of course the English word aria, that might just be that they're looking for any just musical term, right? No matter what. But like aria does mean like a very specific musical thing. I think it's like a ballad in an opera. I think specifically sung by a female singer. Let me know if it's more specific than that. I don't know that it's always a ballad, but I think it is a ballad. But I don't know. I'm not completely up to date with some of my opera terms, so I apologize. I'm not as into opera as I'd like to be. I'm a fan of classical music. Just for some of the you that may be listening to this, you're like, well, why would you? Why would you apologize for that? But I do like classical music, and I'm a composer. So this is like, I do feel like I have some duty as a musician to study it more and to be up to date on the different genres and culture. And I think that would be rewarding. So that's where I'm coming from. It's like, no, I think it is a duty of mine, a responsibility to know all of the, to be more informed and educated, especially if I'm going to compose my own music. Or if I'm going to write, I'm a filmmaker, and when I write scripts, I think it behooves a writer to be educated in the history of the world around them. I believe that, right? I think school is sometimes tough, but I do believe in education, at the very least, even in, self-education. I think it behooves us. I think it's the responsibility of all people to educate themselves. I think it behooves us all, but I think especially creators and people with platforms, which I have a little bit of a platform, just a wee bit. I don't know if I can use the word like, am I an internet micro celebrity yet? I don't know. I don't know if I can use that term. I don't know. Like I was uncomfortable with the word even like YouTuber for a while. Where's that fish? I swear I just saw that fish splashing. Where'd it go? I swear I just saw it. Oh, there it is. Right? Yeah, it's over there. It was just blending in. Usually I can spot it pretty well, but I guess sometimes depending on the weather, it's harder to spot. But yeah, I was uncomfortable with the word YouTuber for a while, or Zelda tuber. But I am, and I take pride in that, and I'm a part of a community, and something I've taken a lot of joy in for this channel is the community for Wind Waker Unflooded. If y'all don't know, I do a 3D modeling project where I'm reimagining the world of Hyrule as it could have existed within the world of the Wind Waker. And I'm really excited to keep working on that. There have just been technical reasons that the project's been on pause. Are you thinking you want to get into that cave, Small Fry? The one that's protected by the crazy winds on that island? Okay, then let me just tell you a little secret. If you go you know what? I don't think I have those items yet. What do you know? I get so used to this game that I forget a key next step. So before we can get in there, it appears that I've neglected the mother and child aisle. So, man, I can't believe I forgot that. It's been like 2 weeks since I've played the game. Like I was, I guess, a little mixed up in my run. This is a game I know like the back of my hand, and yet I forgot to get the fire and ice arrows. So we have a couple of other errands to run before we can get into the sage temples. So bear with me. This is exciting. Um, this is fun. I like this part of the game because this is starting to open up some of that. Like you should have to kind of explore the world on your own. Now that you have the Ballad of Gales, is there a place that you can access that you couldn't access before? Right? Because that's what Zelda's all about, right? I think that that feeling or like coming upon something and you're like, oh, I can't quite get to that yet, and then you come back to it later and you remember it, and then you come back with a new item, or you're stronger, or whatever it is, or you're wiser perhaps, and you can come back with experience and move a heavy rock that you couldn't move before. I think that is something that the new games are missing a little bit. I think they have them in like Tears of the Kingdom has some dungeons that I think do that well. I think the Lightning Temple has some moments where you come back to an old puzzle with new knowledge, and it's like classic Zelda dungeon design. But the overworld is missing that gated progression. And I think there's a little bit of it in Tears of the Kingdom where you can access different sky islands depending on if you can make a flying contraption that has enough battery, for instance, and that kind of gates progress. But it is different. Does that not surprise you, little one? Oh, I love this cutscene. I like you. And so I shall give you new power to the bow that you wield. This is great. Just like you've been seeing these great fairies all around the Great Sea, and the queen of the fairies, who you would think would be this, super magical, powerful being, appears just like a kid. Just like you, which I think is part of the theme of the game, right? Like Tetra's a kid as well. And yet it's like kids that wield both great power and great responsibility, right? Kids that are forced to become leaders and heroes despite their age. I don't know. I think that's just really cool. Just the fact that like it's empowering young people, and there is some sorrow in that like why should it be up to them to fix their world? And yet like I think there's also pride in it that like just because they're young doesn't mean that they can't like take action and accomplish things, right? So it's a little bit of both, right? Like same with Ocarina of Time. I think it had a similar message that like there's something sad in the fact that the hero of time had to save the world, that a kid had to forever kind of give up his childhood in order to save the world, that even upon returning to his childhood it wasn't the same. He had to just become an adult and leave everything behind, and that was sad. And yet there's also pride in the fact that that he was willing to take on trials and become a leader and become a hero, despite people not thinking it was possible. Same with the Hero of Winds. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think both of those things are true, and that's just part of the. I don't know, something I think that's interesting about Link as a character, because Link like doesn't get a whole lot of characterization in some of these games, right? He doesn't get any dialogue, and yet like the circumstances create the character as well. So it's like Link is a character whether you like it or not. I guess like that's the fact. That is, do I want to? I already have a fairy in a bottle. Yeah, I mean, let's just go back to the Sage Temples and proceed. But yeah, I love that cutscene. I love that moment, and it's just a really cool world of just fleshing out this world that, this is what the Great Fairies, this is the Queen of the Fairies. If you've been wondering, who they are, right? And I love that, right? And she may be hiding her true form, right? Like she may have some very powerful form, like the Koroks do, right? Like the Koroks used to look like people, and then they took on new forms when the sea flooded. I assume that the Great Fairies did something similar. I think that's an open question, right? Because the Great Fairies seem almost inhuman, and the Queen of the Fairies is like playing with one like it's a puppet, right? And it might just be a toy. But I don't know. It's like I have this assumption that like the Great Fairies, are still like, from the same lineage of Great Fairies that we saw in Ocarina of Time, that we saw again in Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. That that the fairy folk, like there's a lineage there. And I think it's confusing, right? Just because like they do take different forms depending on the game, and we have, the Great Fairies design in the Wind Waker, which looks so different from the design of other games. But then you also have the the fact that the fairy design is different depending on the game. Sometimes they're a ball of light, and yet in this cartoon, like they're a little child, as you see there. They're humanoid, which I think is interesting, and that like in Ocarina of Time, which is debatably more realistic, fairies look like balls of light, and then in Wind Waker, where it's more cartoonish, it's they look more like you can make out detail. They look more like people. I'm getting the order wrong now that I have the arrow. I can't go directly to the Sage Islands. I need to go to the Ice Ring Isle and the Fire Volcano. Excuse me, I'm totally messing this up. That's okay. That's why I'm replaying the game. It's like I'm catching my mistake right before I make it, but alas, thank you for y'all's patience. I just realized that I'm like I'm not ready yet. Still, just because I have the bow upgrade, I am still not ready. But anyway, and that's the whole conversation too. Like I was just saying about like, is Ocarina of Time supposed to be more realistic? Because really, like the reality is that like, and I think we saw this in the 3DS version that like when it had the chance to upgrade its graphics, it's still like pretty like cartoonish. Like it still has this kind of like anime aesthetic. Does it take itself a little bit more seriously than Wind Waker? Sure. And I think Twilight Princess is like an evolution of Ocarina of Time's art style as well. Like there's places where the textures are a little bit more realistic, but like ultimately it's still kind of like an anime art style. Um, Almost as if like they're like anime figurines, right? Which I think is really interesting aesthetically. Um, I think Twilight Princess has an interesting aesthetic that like almost feels like sculptures. Like it reminds me of like, oh, what was that movie? Like The Tale of Despero. If you remember, it's like art style. It's a little different, but Twilight Princess I think has a little bit of that in it. That like the characters almost feel wooden, like and sculpted at times, right? And I think it's a beautiful thing. I love Twilight Princess's art style, but it still like is a descendant of that like anime art style from Ocarina of Time. And Wind Waker, of course, is still much like an anime. It's just a little bit more cartoonish. So I don't know. It's like I think it's interesting because just I remember the Zelda fan base, and this was a conversation that persisted even as I grew up. But like the conversation was always that like Ocarina of Time was this big, dark, serious game, and then Wind Waker came out and it looked like a children's game, and it was controversial. Um, and yet, like, to me, like the art styles aren't so different. The games aren't so different, right? Like it makes sense. Like, and maybe it is a jump in so many different ways. Like Ocarina of Time tells a serious, grounded story in different ways, and Wind Waker is more like it feels more lighthearted and kid friendly. But like that's still like Wind Waker is still a dramatic story in the same way that Ocarina of Time is. There's still drama and history and lore and deep character writing and like deep philosophical ideas in both of those games that are both written so well that like to me it's like they're games that aren't so different. Going from Ocarina of Time to Wind Waker, like and there are differences, but I don't know. It's like it doesn't feel like it's so black and white as sometimes the fan base makes it sound like it is. And I think a lot of of modern fans don't feel that way. But I know that was definitely something of the time that it came out. Look at this too. This lava, there's lava, excuse me, before I take out the lava flow. I'm trying to figure out that is additional geometry. I think it's not, I was just trying to figure out, was that just added textures that changed? Some of it is like there is textures flowing on the rock. But I mean, this is a fairly low poly island, so like the lava flow, like of course there's like lava rivers coming down, but then there's like lava a lava texture kind of on the whole island as well. And I don't know, I'm assuming that there's extra geometry making that happen, but it's hard to know sometimes. I definitely think like the rivers are extra geometry. I just can't tell with some of like the light changes on it, but who knows? Who knows? Let's freeze the lava. Anyway, and then let's scamper in. I think we only have a couple minutes to make this work. I think it's just enough time, but sometimes I get pretty close to the timer. I ain't gonna cap. Oh, I should have shot down this Cargarok too before I started. It's gonna annoy me when I get up there. See if I can bullseye it. I'm not gonna waste too much time on this if I miss. And I'm missing. I'm okay. I'm not worrying about it. Let's get in the island. All right, let's do this real quick. Okay, I think we're going to go up here and then kind of go to the left, I think is the move. Oh, it's raining. That's fine. I don't care. Okay, it's going to fight me anyway. That's okay. That's okay. I'm going to shoot it down. Come on, L targeting. Where are you good for? There we go. All right, let's get to the top. Let's get to the top. There we go. Okay. I'm glad the Kargarok is taken care of. That makes it a little... I feel a little safer, because I think there's a part where I have to, like, sneak along a ledge, I think. Yeah, there it is. I didn't want to do that with a bird attacking me. So here we go. Because you really can't fight back when you're on these ledges. Same with, like, you know, like the Forsaken Fortress of Spotlights. That being said, there's still a bomb ship, like, off in the distance I can hear. So as long as that doesn't hurt me, I'm happy. So all right, we're climbing up. We're climbing up. We're almost there. We're almost there. All right. We still have just under 4 minutes. All right, let's get in the island. All right, and that'll be the last thing I do in this episode. We'll be getting the what is it? The power bracelet. So let's do that. Let's rush in. Boing, boing. I'm not gonna let these keys bother me, because I'm a pro gamer. I'm an absolute menace. Yeah, here we go. Let's take down these magtails. All right, I'm ready. Let me parry. Yeah, let's do it. All right, hey, come on, come on. I had a lot of things going on at once. Had a fire keys. All right. But I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Oh, I can just destroy it now. Okay, bet. Rubies, let's go. 10 rubies. All right. All right, let's get the chest. I wonder what's in it. Wait, let's take a look at this, like, ring for a second. That's cool. I like the texture that it uses. I wonder if I have access to that for Wind Waker Unflooded. I like that. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. Just like a... Like, is that supposed to be naturally formed? Or is that... I don't know, because, like, different Zelda games, of course, have, like, power rings or power bracelets. And so I'm assuming that that's also kind of a reference to that in some form. But I don't know. Anyway, here's the power bracelets. So we'll see. Let's get out of here. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Oh, yeah, the face. The face. I love this thing. This, like... Because this is one of those things that, like, I've said before, like, something I love about the aesthetics of the game is how it plays with that, like, relationship with an ancient civilization. And it's one that, like, has statues left behind that just seem strange. It's like a culture you can't quite understand. And I love that face statue just as an example of that. It feels very, like, alien in a way, right? You're like, I don't quite know who this is, or, like, is it a god? Is it a person? Is it, you know, you can make assumptions, but you'll never really know. But anyway, I think that's all the time we have for today in this episode. So thank you, yeah, all so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. So without further ado, I'll let you go. As always, you can support me as a creator by becoming a member on Patreon. There you'll get access to all kinds of exclusive behind-the-scenes content like in-progress outlines, scripts, storyboards, rough cuts, and even soundtracks for my newest films. By becoming a member, you'll also be thanked in the credits for any film I finish during your membership. You can also support me by streaming my music. I compose all of the scores for my own short films, and you can listen to those soundtracks on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to music. Just look up Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Y'all have a wonderful day, and without further ado, I'll let you go.